It's 21 East. All of the people there, the inmates there, call it the tomb. And that's what they call it. Nobody wants to go to the tomb because once they get you in there, you just don't come out. They wreck your mind. They fill you with these narcotic drugs and Thorazine, and the inmates there, they just turn them into just animals, you might as well say. People who can't think, can't hardly eat. They're so full of these drugs. So at 3 o'clock in the morning on July the 6th, 1967, 2 guards came to my bed, and this was shortly after I had that confrontation with this inmate. 2 guards came and they poked me and woke me up and told me to follow them. And we began to walk in the middle of the night down those long hallways. And I'm following these guards. I don't know at the time where we're going. Because they transfer you the same way they come get you. They transfer you to another institution. You don't have any rights or anything. So we keep walking, and all of a sudden, we come to this massive steel door. I didn't even know where 21 East was. Come to this massive steel door, and they open the door, and just the scent would knock you down. And the guard came. And I knew then, when I heard the screaming and yelling and the cursing, foul language, I knew where I was and I knew what I was up against. And I just became, you might say, weak with fear, because I knew this was, I knew what they were trying to do. So they took my clothing, stripped me naked, and put me in one of the cells. And it was pretty hard. I thought about my family. I had such a wonderful family. I thought about my wife, Barbara, had been so much for me. My son, Dame, and Abram, and I just knew I just had to make it some kind of way. And here I am, naked, and the next day, 4 guards come to the door, and they unlocked the door and said, medication time. I said, I'm not on medication. They said, you are now. I said, who said so? They said, Dr. Kensel. I said, I'm not a mental patient. They said, well, you're going to take the medication. I said, I'm going to refuse to take it. You need a court order to give me the medication. He said, oh, you're going to take it, boy. Just like that. So you're going to either take it in this tablet form or we're going to give it to you in your ASS. So I didn't have much choice. I tried to out-slick them and put the tablet under my tongue. But they were hip to that. I wasn't the first one that thought of that. They made me raise my tongue and made sure that I swallowed it. And I knew that they were putting me on the road to no return. Now, inmates call this place the tomb, and they call it rightfully because most of the men who went in there never came out. You're in there for life, because once that they get you in there and they change your status, you have to get a court order to come out of there. And they keep you in there for the rest of your life. They can, until you're certified sane. So doing 6 years in the penitentiary, I could have been there for 25, 30, 40 years. I could still be there trying to do 6 years, because I'm not a prisoner, I'm a patient, you see. That's the loophole where they try to keep you for the rest of your life. I knew they had that in store for me. But I tell you, Brother Ron and Sister Margaret, I grew up believing in the justice of God. And I had one thing to fight with, and that was the truth, and that was God, the love of God. And I did a lot of praying while I was in there. There was nobody that could fight for me. There was nobody could raise a hand for me. As a matter of fact, the reason that they come get you at 3 o'clock in the morning is so that the other inmates won't even know where you are. You just disappear. They don't know whether you're at another institution, been transferred, or they don't have any idea where you are. And the next time the other inmates see you, you would be just helpless as you could be. I saw men walking like that, like zombies. And at night I was listening to the inmates there who would be hollering, throwing feces up against the door and things like that, completely driven out of their mind, hollering and screaming to the top of their voice, trying to get at the guards, beating their heads up against that steel door and the glass. All of these things were going on around me. And I had to figure out a way to avoid them doing what they were doing to me. So I was laying on my bunk one night, brother, and I had almost given up hope. And I saw this light that came on the right side of my bunk, up in the corner, in the ceiling. And as I watched this light, it grew in intensity, and it became very, very white. I wouldn't lie to you, brother and sister. This actually happened. And I laid there. And as the light dimmed some, the picture of a face came very clear inside that light. And I'm laying there. I could think. I'm laying there. I said, am I hallucinating? Am I going crazy? Am I going nuts? Have these people been a success in driving me out of my mind? I was thinking all of these things as I watched that light. And then a voice emanated from that light, a voice that I had never heard before. And it was such a mellow voice. It was like water roaring, and when it spoke, it just made your whole insides vibrate. It was smooth, no cracking. And it asked me my name, and I told him my name. And the voice told me, said, God is with you. And you know, as the light died away, I got up and I sat on the side of my bunk, and I was thinking, have they gotten to you, or have you gone mad? And then I heard the footsteps of the guards rushing towards my room, the cell that I was in. So I laid back on the bunk right quick and folded my arms across my chest like I was asleep. And they stopped right in front of my door. And they took this big 5-cell flashlight, and they shone it all around the room. They all up in the ceiling, and they raked it across me a few times, and they shined it all around the room. So I'm laying there thinking I'm playing sleep. And then finally they were mumbling something to each other. I couldn't hear them because of the big steel door I was behind, but they were talking to each other. Then they cut off the light, and then they went back downstairs. And I said to myself, they heard something too. I'm not nuts. I'm not nuts. They heard, they saw something or heard something, because they just came to my cell. They didn't go to anybody else's cell but mine, and then they went back to where they were seated. The next morning, a miracle happened there. I heard the bells ringing. I didn't know what it meant. Bells were ringing, ding, 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 ding. So I went to this little window, what was in my steel door, and I started looking as far as I could see up and down the aisle, and I could smell smoke. I had been locked up in there for 10 days, and they had been trying to give me this medication. And I heard one guard say to another, "What's going on?" And said, "There's a fire." Said, "There's a fire in the cell next to Bolden." And the other guard hollered back and says, "Nobody in that cell. It can't be." And he said, "Well, the whole cell is on fire. It's burning. The whole room is on fire." And so they had to let me out. They brought me out of there. And I'm telling you, it wasn't 1 second too soon. So when they brought me out of there and I had a chance to sit with those other inmates who were there, I happened to see one inmate who was there in 21 East that I witnessed killed another inmate on the elevator. And he came and sat down next to me. He was all drugged up and doped up. And I told him I didn't witness what happened, but I was in the officer's kitchen. I was assigned there, and what happened was that I was on the elevator taking a tray of potatoes up to the main kitchen, and when the elevator door opened, when I went back downstairs, this guy, James Robinson, rushed on the elevator with a shank that he made. There was another young man standing behind me, and he commenced to cut this man's guts out with his shank. Yeah, I thought he was coming after me. By me being an agent, you know. So I stepped to the side, and I tried to put that cart between me and him, but he went right past me, and he stabbed this other young man to death. Blood was squirting everywhere. And this is the person that came and sat down next to me. Of course, I told him I didn't see anything. No, I didn't see anything. But I can laugh a little bit about it now, but I'm telling you it wasn't funny then. So finally, they transferred me out of there. Now, let me tell you this. And then your guests can ask me, your audience can ask me any question that they want to. They decided that they were going to try to change my number, my camp number, to a P number and keep me in psychiatric. I knew that's what they wanted to do. And the whole instigator behind this was the chief of the classification and parole. And his name was Julius Nichols. He was the chief of classification and parole. He's the guy that said that I should have taken the knife away from this maniac there who was threatening me.
Right.
Yeah. And so now I get wind that I'm on the list to go before a committee that Friday for 30 days. That would have been my 30th day there. On my 28th day, I had a vision, sort of like the first vision. The only thing about this second vision was that no words were spoken. But as the light dimmed, there was the image of a man hanging by his neck. And clearly, I could see the image of a man hanging by his neck. And again, I thought maybe that I was losing it, you know. And the same reaction from the guards happened again. This happened early in the morning. I heard them running. They were actually running up those steel steps and came to my room, and they were shining a light all around. Then one of them took the key, opened the door, and looked in and closed the door back. So I said, well, that wasn't a hallucination either. Now, I'm supposed to go to before the committee. The committee consists of the ward, and there are nurses and doctors and psychiatrists and things, and they do that in order to change your